Hello friends, my name is Veronica and I am the co-founder of Inu. And I would love to warmly welcome you to this program that's going to empower you to lead in highly energizing ways through mastering stress resilience. Today's lesson, which is the very first one, we're going to focus on one of the most important, arguably, topics when it comes to building stress resilience, and that is to understand what are the 5 stages of stress and burnout, how to identify the symptoms that you're experiencing, and most importantly, what can you do? What are the actions that you can take when you're finding yourselves getting close to burnout or even getting closer to being in the stages of stress that don't serve you? All right, guys, you ready? Let's dive right in. So let me start with honeymoon, which I'm pretty sure will shock a lot of people. And there is a question, what is this doing here when it comes to stress? Actually, burnout does start in honeymoon, and I'll explain why. Similarly to honeymoon in relationships or in life, this is typically associated with something new. It might be getting a new job, getting promoted, starting a new project. It's usually the time when we feel high energy. We're almost like flying high. We're in love, So we're in love with our job. We want to prove ourselves. We take on responsibilities. We want to be present all the time. We're highly creative, productive, and inspired. However, what happens for a lot of people here, unconsciously and quite naturally, this is why it's so important to mention this, is that they start neglecting the things that actually allow them to be balanced. Because yes, they want to prove themselves so much and they are so excited about the work that they're doing. So it's very common that we start putting aside our hobbies, exercise, socializing, spending time with our families, doing things that are actually good for us, and that will bring that balance and make sure that we do not burn out, that we do not put work at the center of our lives and let it stress us to the point where it starts getting dangerous. So knowing that, you can actually apply some very useful quick hacks to make sure that you don't get out of balance here. Introduce breaks, even when they're quick breaks. When you're in this phase, you can do with quick breaks and they will be really, really supportive, really helpful. Make sure that you're having your social life, that you are connecting with people, because there are some really important hormones that want to be released and that will actually really soothe your nervous system. Speaking of nervous system, what we want to make sure is that you are able to upregulate and downregulate here, but in healthy ways. What a lot of people do is that the moment they start encountering a lot of this motion and the stress that's coming at them, they start drinking more coffee. They might be drinking more alcohol. They might be reaching for unhealthy food. And then that leads you kind of, down the negative spiral. So what you want to make sure is that if you want to upregulate, you're doing it in ways that can be alkalizing for your body. So if you like caffeine, instead of drinking coffee, maybe choose green tea or matcha. It has a different way to interact with your body than coffee does. You can also opt for, there's so many amazing biohacking methods, which we will explore in more depth in this program. But just to mention a few, cold showers, exposure to cold, movement, dancing, fantastic to really get your circulation, your lymph moving and bring all that energy into your brain, into your entire body. Cardio of any kind of activity that you really love doing, again, amazing. And breath work. There are some amazing types of breath work that can upregulate and bring a lot of energy into your system, as well as downregulate. And so when we're talking about having balance, we want to make sure we can bring ourselves high and then we can also soothe ourselves and bring ourselves down to the calm state. So again, using breath for that purpose is also amazing. It's a different kind of breath work. And then using movement, again, exercises such as yoga or moving meditation can be really beneficial to soothe down your nervous system, just to make sure that it's not getting out of whack. Now, as we're moving on the stress continuum, if we do not make sure that there is balance when it comes to our nervous system, what starts happening is that the stress starts impacting us negatively. And this can look like feeling exhausted, starting to feel really fatigued, starting to have problems with our sleep, starting to notice that it's harder for us to focus, that our mental clarity isn't quite there, starting to feel like, we're kind of running behind. Even waking up with anxiety is a very common thing. And starting to feel first kind of aches and pains in our body. These could be digestive issues, there can be headaches. A lot of people are finding themselves kind of dancing in between honeymoon and onset of stress, which is not necessarily bad, and is really good to just take stock of what are your symptoms of onset of stress. When are you noticing that there is stress that's starting to show up in your life, so that you can pull yourself always back to the honeymoon. If you're finding yourself in this stage of onset of stress, first things that you should be doing is taking longer breaks. That is the most important thing. Just disconnecting, and ideally disconnecting from devices as well, going into the nature, making sure that you are allowing yourself for a greater amount of time and space away from work. Secondly, here you definitely want to start focusing on down regulating your nervous system, because these symptoms mean that there is already starting to be accumulated amount of stress in your body. So everything that I said for honeymoon in terms of the mindfulness exercises, movement, slowing down, breathing, yoga, meditation, all of these things are really helpful the moment you start feeling some stress. Be careful with gym, because a lot of people feel like they should be going to gym so that they can release this pressure from their body. It can be very helpful in some ways, but if you already have high cortisol levels, the gym is actually adding to that. So I would opt more for kind of slower exercises. You can do cardio, but don't do too much of it, and really balance and introduce different types of movements into your routine rather than just pushing yourself hard or doing runs, and that's just really adding to your fatigue. There is nothing worse than doing gym in the evening if you already have accumulated amount of stress in your body, because it's going to completely disrupt your sleep. And last thing to mention here is absolute zoom in, focus on the diet. Clean and lean. If you want to know what that means in more detail, I can definitely explain that. Please reach out to me. We will be also looking at this later in this course as we dive into nutrition. It's very important that you're supporting your body and its natural ability to digest and absorb nutrients here, because if the body starts breaking down here, you're going to basically get really close to damaging your organs, and I will touch on that in the later stages of chronic stress and burnout. All right, chronic stress. This is, I think, a stage that a lot of people know really well. It basically means that the amount of stress in the body is significant. We are feeling like we're stuck in this loop of constant exhaustion. We can't really get out of it. And there are symptoms such as quite significant body pains, and that might become chronic. Every person might develop different ones. For someone, it hits digestion a little bit more. For some people, it's the onset of migraines, which are extensive headaches. And it could be severe back pain as well that we experience here, or other pains. What's going on in terms of our cognition and our emotions is that we're starting to really struggle to focus. We start feeling like we cannot actually even push ourselves and get ourselves to work. We start kind of withdrawing from, we can take on more tasks. So we start procrastinating. We start really feeling like this is almost traumatizing for us to be actually working, because subconsciously we know it's causing us all of this, and there is just way too much for us to do. And we're withdrawing from our social interactions and circles and from work altogether. A lot of people opt for substance abuse here. And by that, I don't just mean alcohol and drugs. By this, I also mean using excessive amounts, painkillers, suppressants, kind of antidepressants, things that are trying to alleviate the pain in a sense. So instead of that, what we should be doing, what we should absolutely be doing, is start with taking major breaks. And by that, I mean multiple holidays per year where you're really allowing yourself to disconnect. I would recommend every 3 months. Every month, you should take at least a couple of days off. Every 3 months, you should go on a holiday. This is to really make sure that you're not going to the next stage, which is burnout, but to make sure that you go back and you can actually find your way back into the honeymoon. And that goes hand in hand with what I call the radical reduction. So cut down everything that is not essential for you. Really reprioritize and realize you're literally playing with fire here. You're like really close to burnout. So make sure you're not getting there and throw out everything that is not a priority. Your priority should be health right now. The other thing that's very important to mention here is, again, down regulation, same as in the previous phase, and go really hard on clean diet. So what is happening usually here is that's why there is a connection actually that I'll go into deeper when it comes to our brain and our gut. We will look at that in the next video. What happens here for a lot of people is that their ability to absorb nutrients from the food that they're eating, providing that you're actually eating healthy food, the ability to absorb the goodness from that food is lowered, because when we're having high cortisol in our body for a prolonged period of time, it's actually blocking our rest and digest. And that means that a lot of people are developing stomach issues and migraines because our body cannot actually process and it cannot digest, do its normal functioning. So what we want to make sure is that we are supporting our body, not just by proteins and supplements like vitamins, but actually looking at amino acids, which are found in most animal products, but there's other amino acids that are really helpful, such as L-glutamine, that really support healthy digestion and lining of the stomach. A lot of people develop here leaky gut, irritable bowel syndrome as well. And so we want to make sure that we are giving ourselves the ability to actually absorb the nutrients and not getting these nutrients and the toxicity to go into our bloodstream. We should be really taking care of our liver, our kidneys, and our gallbladder. I have amazing protocols that can help you guys to do this here if you're interested, if you're finding yourselves with some of these symptoms. And the other thing is to support your lymphatic system. So really the focus here should be on radical reduction, taking breaks, and making sure that you're bringing a lot of attention to detoxifying, clarifying, and boosting the ability of your body to absorb the goodness, to absorb the nutrients, and to be in that stress resilient stage so that you can slowly start going back to that honeymoon phase from here, repairing essentially. All right, so the next stage is burnout. Many of you might be familiar with this. Basically, when the amount of stress in our body gets to the level that it reaches kind of a collapse mode, we experience the so-called burnout. Intensified and prolonged physical symptoms and pains and illness and getting sick all the time. Our immunity is suppressed, and we're really feeling this on our mental level. A lot of people develop depression. There might be some suicidal ideation here that could happen, which is a topic that we talk about a lot together because burnout is so existential in its nature too. Our entire body's chemistry is changing with these hormones. We are all made up of hormones. And we really start questioning if the things that we've been doing our whole life and pressuring ourselves to work this hard, what's really the point of it and where is it leading us? Because of the neglect of ourselves, we start really experiencing resentment, irritation, cynicism, and withdrawing completely from social circles and developing this so-called escapism, which is kind of wishing we could just get away from it all. If you are finding yourselves in burnout, what I highly recommend is, if this is available to you, if it's not, make sure that you can make it work somehow. Taking a major break. This could be a sabbatical, it could be several months, and it really depends on how you spend this time. The things that are really supportive and helpful are nature exposure, complete disconnection from the virtual world and technology, and really reconnecting with yourself, repairing your health. So go down into the root of the issue, the physical issue, because everyone has different symptoms here. Could be cardiovascular, could be more digestive. You might be wanting to focus more on the kind of brain and gut axis and treating depression. So whatever this is for you, really go to the root of it and start addressing that. What could be supportive also is getting infusions, getting IVs, and then focusing on doing some protocols, just like I mentioned with chronic stress, in terms of repairing your liver and your digestive systems, but also looking at healthy nutrition, what to eat and how to eat, that can really help you to get back on track pretty quickly, even when you're in a burnout stage. A lot of people don't know about this, but there is a certain diet that we can implement together that will help you. And I believe it goes without saying that if you have been using alcohol, completely stop any alcohol intake, because alcohol is actually a depressant and it's really, really unhelpful in the recovery process, even though it might feel like it's soothing, but is really damaging for the body for many multiple reasons. Again, contact me if you would like to have more detail on that. The last thing, which I feel like I haven't quite mentioned, is sleep. And that is absolutely crucial for all of these 4 stages. With burnout, it's going to be something that you're feeling quite a lot. Get as much sleep as you need, as much as it's possible for you. And, sleep can be so amazing to use as a hack. You can nap, especially in the first 2 stages, to make sure that you're always on top of your energy. But the moment you start feeling more fatigue, start sleeping more. That is just, it just makes so much sense. And it's the number one thing we should all be doing. And our last stage is habitual burnout. Habitual burnout is when we kind of live in a burnout way in general, in a cycle. So a lot of people would go between burnout and chronic stress, and this creates this kind of toxic loop of being in habitual burnout. So they would take one massive holiday per year and prevent their burnout, or try to prevent their burnout when they start feeling burnt out or they're on the brink of collapse. And this really creates this habitual burnout. For other people, they might actually be completely unable to even function, and they just get in the stage of barely functioning for 3 months and then burning out again. So this is usually associated with just collapsing physically and feeling really weak, feeling really disempowered, both on the mental level and physically. Depression is very common here, and we're developing lots of physical symptoms. Some of these might bring us to the hospital, actually. It's everything that you experience burnout, but kind of more intensified. And we might be trying to hack our way through that and prevent it, but unless we really solve that root cause, why are we getting into burnout? And this actually is for stages 2 to 5. All of these we should be looking at what is the common denominator that is driving us. What are the habits and what are the subconscious patterns, the beliefs, and then the external environment that we live in, the workplace that we live in. Even if we're changing jobs, what are the kind of conditions we're finding ourselves in, and contributing to them with our behavior that are driving us to the burnout, that are driving us to having more stress in our lives that we would like to. And so if you're finding yourself in this 5th phase, I highly recommend taking a big break and using this break. Again, same as with burnout. Here, this is even a better opportunity for reflection and really understanding what is that common denominator. What is that one thing that keeps driving me, keeps me stuck in this loop? And reach for coaching, reach for therapy. I know that you're in this program, so it's amazing that you have done this for yourself. Really focus on getting your body back into a place where you can support it and allow it to function. Slowly. This is going to be quite a journey. You're probably already at a level where your organs have been affected. So I'm not saying it's impossible to heal within 3 months, but the time we have here together, if you are in habitual burnout, just consider this as the beginning of the journey, and it's going to take some time to actually repair everything. So I am so excited that you guys are here, because this is really the first step of helping yourself and empowering yourself with this knowledge and these changes that you're about to make. So based on what we have discussed today here, where in these 5 stages on the spectrum are you currently? And what are the symptoms that you're experiencing? What does it look like when you're kind of on this continuum in these different stages? Just bring more awareness of what does this continuum mean in terms of your life. We also have an exercise for you that you can fill out and really outline it in a way that you can always refer to and make sure when you're experiencing certain symptoms that you can pull yourselves back to go to that dream honeymoon stage at all times. And really looking at the action points that you can take that are going to be really supporting you specifically to make sure that you can build that stress resilience and really keep your whole mind, body, and your spirit healthy. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. This was our first video. In the next one, we're going to dive into the physiology of stress and really equip you with all you need to know about your body, about your mind, to make sure that you will never get to burnout again. All right, I'll see you in the next one.